Welcome back to Renegade Expedition. On today's video, we're going to be showing you how to get started overlanding using the Jeep Renegade. Now, we're going to keep this as budget conscious as possible. We're not going to be taking any fancy gear. We're not taking our roof racks. We're not taking our awnings, nothing like that. We want to show you that you can actually get started with very little. In this trip, I'm actually going to be sleeping inside Arctica. Alan's going to be sleeping inside a ground tent. Okay, so I'm going to hand this over to Alan so that way he can show you what he's going to be taking with him for this trip.
Welcome back, guys. So, kind of like Andy was saying, we're going to be taking the Renegades with us on this trip, and our main goal is to show you that you don't need to go bankrupt to go overlanding. Andy's going to go very basic, very minimalistic. I will also, however, I'm going to be using more of the stuff that I already have in my garage, and this is just camping gear that I've accumulated over the years. Okay, guys, so this is the majority of the stuff I'm gonna be taking on this trip. Let's start with this real quick. So these are front runner wolf packs. Now, you don't necessarily need to invest in something like this right off the bat. I actually started with some Plano tote boxes, and they were a little bit more affordable than this. However, these just stack better when it comes to vehicles like the Renegade. Because their footprint is fairly small and the amount of stuff that you can actually put in here is quite a bit. Now with the front runner packs, you actually get little labels for everything. So for example, this one we have labeled food. So in this box, I've got propane, I've got some dry freeze food that I can just make. And honestly, guys, if you're just starting out, I highly recommend these guys. They're little mountain house meals that we got at Walmart. And they're just really easy. You just got to boil some water and you're pretty much set. So this is my little burner that I'm going to be putting on top of my propane tank. So that's going to act as my stove. I've got a little Teflon pan, non-slick pan, some oil for just various meals, the base to the propane tank for some stability. Got some paper plates all the way at the bottom in case I don't feel like washing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You should always carry your first aid kit, whether if you make one or you buy one that's already made. This one is from My Medic, and it's a very comprehensive first aid kit. There's things in here for all sorts of situations. The other thing, this is a small little roll-up fabric table. Takes up no room at all. You don't have to take a table. Always, it's always nice to have, but not necessarily needed. Usually at campgrounds, there's already tables there. And then when you're remote camping, there's usually rocks that you can put stuff on. So yeah. Now over here, I have my front runner chair, front runner stratchet. And over here, I have my toilet. Okay guys, let's talk about first aid one more time. It's not so much just having it, but also knowing where to put it. A lot of people like to put these in inconvenient spots, such as storage cases. You ideally want to have this where you can always get to it. So for the most part, I always just put it on the headrests, and I'll show you how. And then I just kind of pull the slack so I know it's tight and I know it's not going to go anywhere. And that's it. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it. This is how I would go about loading my Jeep. Obviously, I went very minimal, and then some. You know, I'm bringing things that I don't necessarily need, but I just, it's nice to have those things at camp. Again, the whole idea, the whole reason behind this is you want to enjoy the experience more so than the gear. So remember, the vehicles are just a tool, the gear are just a way to be comfortable, but the overall goal is to experience the outdoors, you know. But anyway, we're packed. I think we're ready to roll. Let's go meet Andy.
So some of the items I always take some water. I'm taking ice chest. I'm taking my Magellan stove. You can get them from Academy. They're about 30-40 bucks. This is actually the one I use all the time. It's been serving me well. I've been using it for over a year now. And you don't always have to go buy an expensive stove. These work great. I'm taking 2 sleeping bags. Mainly I'm going to use one as a sleeping bag because it's real thick. And then I'm going to use the other one to actually sleep in. I'm taking my chair. All of these items you can find pretty cheap. If you don't have sleeping bags, you can even take your bedding off your bed at home and use that. I know for this trip I will be using my pillows off my bed. So in my wolf pack, I'm going to be packing just some of the essentials. I have a couple of meals, breakfast and dinner mainly. I'll eat a small snack for lunch. I'm using both oatmeals, which are great because you don't even have to boil water. You just add water to it. It heats up itself and cooks the food. And I'm also taking the Mountain House meals, which these are pretty good too. You just boil the water, add it to it. Makes cooking really easy, and the food's usually pretty good. Always take paper towels, disinfecting wipes, trash bags, my toiletry bag with just some of my stuff I use, and then I have some silverware down at the bottom. Now I do have a front runner kit that I use. However, you can just use silverware from your house. You don't have to go out and buy silverware, especially for your first time camping. Once you get out there, you can definitely see what works for you, what you need, what will make things more comfortable, and that's how you start building a good loadout for when you go. But you definitely don't need everything to get started. Now granted, we do have built rigs, we do have a lot of stuff we can add to them, but on this trip we're going to try to keep it as light as possible and show you just the bare minimum what you can use. I do recommend getting some form of water jug though to wash your hands. I have this one, it's off Amazon, it was a couple bucks. I just fill that up with water and then use that to wash my hands, clean dishes, things like that. I'll be taking that with me. Now that I have all my stuff ready, I'm going to be loading it up into Arctica and then head out and go meet with Alan. Alright, so I have Arctica all packed up. Got the ice chest, table, sleeping bag, water jug. Then we got the stove and wolf pack in the back, and then just in the back seat is the sleeping bag I'm going to use to sleep on, rain jacket because it is going to be raining on this trip. I'm going to miss our awnings for that reason. Then we got a chair, water bottles, and then my backpack with my clothes right here in the front. So I'm about to head out and meet Alan out in the grasslands. That's where we decided to meet, and we'll go from there. When you're first starting out, I do recommend only camping 1 or 2 nights at a time until you figure out exactly which gear you're going to use and what you don't need. If you're always interested on where to find public camping spots around you, you can always use Google. You can Google things like national forest near me, public land near me, state parks. A lot of those facilities and areas will have campgrounds. They'll also have some primitive camping available to you as well. There's also a few apps out there like Gaia and Onyx that offer multi-vehicle usage maps so you can find trails that you can drive on. I do recommend keeping it as simple as possible for your first couple of trips. You don't want any challenging trails or anything like that until your vehicle is properly equipped. For example, today we're just taking some forest roads Very simple. You can do it in a front wheel drive vehicle, rear wheel drive vehicle. You don't necessarily need an all wheel drive vehicle for what we're doing today. We're going to some grasslands actually near us. It's about an hour away from where we both live. If you are interested on how to use Gaia or some of these other apps, let us know down below. Leave a comment and we can put together a video on how to use those. So I just got out here to the grasslands. Alan should be just a couple of moments behind me. Okay. Hey bud.
How are you?
I'm doing alright. How was your drive in?
You know, for it being just an hour, it felt pretty long, I'm not gonna lie. But it was good.
It was good?
Yeah.
Do you have trouble finding me over here?
Just a little bit. These roads are a little confusing at night. So.
Yeah, they really are. Here, let me go get those yellow lights out of your eyes, but you gonna follow me down to camp?
Yeah, I'll follow you down, bro.
Alright.
Good morning. So day 2 of our trip here to the grasslands. It's like probably the only public land around DFW, and we made it to camp last night. Probably, I don't know, what was it, like 9 o'clock, so it wasn't too bad. But as we pulled in, it started to drizzle a little bit, so we couldn't really show you guys too much of all the stuff that was going on last night. So but I really just wanted to touch base real quick on the roads etiquette when you're trying to look for a place to camp. just make sure that you're staying on designated campsites or marked campsites, and usually you'll find like a little fire pit and whatnot. And then also when you're pulling off the road, make sure you're at least like a car's length in, but not further than that. So just a few things to think about whenever you're coming onto public land, because honestly guys, the last thing we want is for places like this to be shut down, especially here in Texas, because they're so scarce. So yeah, just a few little things a few little tips and bits when you're in public lands like this, and you're trying to find a place to camp. You know, you don't want to be making new tracks where you're not supposed to. Yeah, this place is beautiful. This is where we camped last night. This is where Andy slept. Made a whole little car camp setup right here. Looks awesome, dude.
Okay, so I wanted to go over some of the different methods of camping that you can do while you're at camp. Obviously there's rooftop tents. That's not gonna be great for a budget trip. They tend to get pretty expensive. Even the cheapest of ones are closer to $1,000. But for this video, we wanted to show you the difference between camping inside your vehicle and camping inside a ground tent. Sleeping inside a vehicle may not be good for a family. However, it is pretty good if you're by yourself. It gets you up off the ground. Your vehicle is usually a lot more insulated than a tent, so if it's cold outside, it can keep you a little warmer, and vice versa. If it's hot outside, you can actually turn on the AC for a few minutes and cool down that way. There are some great benefits to a ground tent. There's quite a few you can choose from. There's some like the Gazelles that pop up pretty quick. Now those are a little bit more expensive side, so you can upgrade to that if that's what you want to do. Or even the little pop-up tents you get work really well too. Alan on this trip is actually using his Gazelle because that's what he had readily available to do this for you guys. And I'm going to just show you what all he has real quick. So in his ground tent, he's using a cot to get him up off the ground. Again, a lot of this is not necessary. You don't have to spend this much money. Just a sleeping bag and a small mat will be sufficient enough to get you started. But one of the perks of a ground tent is you can get all this space. You can fit a chair, table, whatever you want in there, and still have room to move about, which is always extremely nice. So Alan, how was it for getting your sleeping bag last night?
You know, it got pretty cold, and the worst part is it was only 62 degrees, but being next to the lake with all the moisture in the air and all that stuff, man, I don't know why, but it got pretty cold. So I put a bunch of layers on. Got like 3 layers on right now, and it wasn't enough. Like, I just couldn't do it. So around like 5 a.m. I woke up and I was like, I can't do this anymore. So what I did was I hopped in the car, turned it on, turned the heated seats on, and got warm again. Guys, when you're out here and you get uncomfortable like that, there's no rule against coming in, you know, or going into your vehicle, turning it on and turning the heat on, just to, you know, you can get warm again and all that stuff. So there's no rules. Take this at your own pace. I did it last night because I didn't bring a sleeping bag or even a pillow. Andy has kindly lent me his sleeping bag for tonight to make sure I don't go through that again. But yeah, no, there's no rules to this. Completely go at your own pace. Alright guys, so for the most part I slept pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, it's not the same as sleeping on my 23-0 rooftop tent, especially with that super nice comfortable mattress. but I can still, I mean, it's not that bad. I can definitely see myself camping on a cot again. I just need to get a nice little like mattress topper type thing or sleeping pad, put it on top of this guy, and it should be good. I did wake up a little stiff, a little sore, but again, I'm a side sleeper, so right off the bat, I mean, side sleepers and cots don't mix well. So, but yeah, if you're on a budget, like I said, this is perfect. Cot's good. And again, I think I got this on Amazon for like 30 bucks or something. Bought it a few years ago. Barely used it, but as y'all can see, I have a little table here. This is where I put all my stuff on. Again, that was an Amazon find like 3 years ago, and we barely used it, but it's how, you know, it's showing its use for itself now, right? So real quick, I wanted to talk to you guys about how we go to the bathroom. This is one of those questions that we see often, but we also feel like people are scared to get the answer to. But here, I'm gonna show you. All right, guys, so this is our little green elephant utility room. Again, this is a little privacy room. You can use this as a shower. See, there's a little hole up there. We put a little rain fly on it. It comes with it, and it's just to keep water out. So for example, last night it was raining a little bit, so wanted to make sure that water didn't go in there. But yeah, we mainly use this as a toilet area, or an outhouse, if you will. We've been having this for going on almost 2 years. We got it, I think, for like $30 at the time. I'm sure the price has gone up a little bit since then, but it's been solid for the most part. It is a little flimsy, so you're gonna have to really, as you can see, the wind will mess with it a little bit. That's why we've staked it down the way we have. Otherwise, we just kind of leave it popped up straight up like that. But yeah, this is how we go to the bathroom. If you haven't already, guys, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on that little bell notification so you can be alerted to our next video. We hope you've enjoyed this little camping on a budget video. Minimalistic, extreme minimalistic setups, just to show you guys that you don't necessarily need a lot of Gucci gear to go camping. So, see you on the next one.
Alright, Andy, so what'd you think of this whole trip, man? I know it's a little out of what we're used to, but what's your honest opinion?
Man, I'm not gonna lie, it was a pretty nice trip. It was very good to get back to the basics. I enjoyed it a little bit. It really reminds me of what we need, what we actually don't need while camping, and I think that goes a long ways.
Man, I'd have to agree with you. You know, I think going back to basics, it was good for us, you know, and less is more, especially when you're out here and you want to actually enjoy and where you are. I think the less gear you have, the easier it is for you.
Now, there are definitely some things I would have changed about this trip. Definitely would have liked the sleeping pad while sleeping in Antarctica. That was pretty rough. And then I know there was a few things that you had mentioned earlier that you'd like to change.
Yeah, man. I think if I would have brought along Christy and my little girl, I would have definitely needed a bigger cooler. So I definitely think the Renegades have their place among the community. You know, I think when you have more than one person occupying a vehicle, it's a little harder to fit stuff that you'd need for that. But overall, man, I really enjoyed this trip.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. It was definitely interesting with all the rain and not having our awnings, but we definitely made do. Thankfully, it didn't get really bad. There was no major thunderstorms or anything like that, so that made it a lot easier.
Totally agree, man. We lucked out on the weather big time. Honestly, man, I can see us doing this a bit more often. You know, this is a great refresh from what we're used to with the trucks. And I'd like to do this, you know, ever so often, just to kind of reset our mindset when it comes to being out here.
I was just thinking that too.